Underperformances from these three teams meant they were all out of the running for the major. SSG will be playing Falcons. Fun little story there. I've been their coaching consultant. We just had another weekend of Rocket League. And specifically in the RLCS, we had North America, MENA, and APAC. But this week we also had South America, and I found out through the people in my lovely chat here on Twitch that that's because they have national exams next weekend. So they moved it to this weekend, and because it was the Invitational, there was no need for a qualifier in the week off. So they just went straight ahead and went back-to-back regionals. So we did have 4 regionals this week, and that means we've got a lot of teams now qualified for the major. But to start things off, we're going to look at MENA. So this was the most interesting, in my opinion, of the regionals, just for major reasons. And that was because Falcons and Rule 1 previously KRN, who won the first regional with Kalir's Ruas and Npao. Or Nada, sorry, not Npao, Nada. So these two teams were competing for that major spot. And as you can see, one game dropped here to GK Esports, but realistically it's no biggie. Rule 1 and Team Falcons on the opposite sides of the bracket, which was the dream scenario as they faced off in the final against each other. The winner would be guaranteed the spot to the major. So it was an amazing regional, ended with Falcons, to be honest, dominating against Rule 1. Which is what we suspected at the beginning of the split when Rule 1 did win that first regional. I suggested that Falcons, it's in their control. They are a better Rocket League team if they practice and they perform at the level we expect from them. It was just that they lacked that performance in the first regional. And obviously Rule 1 have been understood now how they play, so there was the ability to counter that play style. Rule 1 don't produce enough offense. They're very reliant on consistency and counter-attacking, which works against the rest of the region. It's that kind of solid game plan that's consistent, but it's not going to pop off and win tournaments every single time, especially when you've got teams like Falcons, who are very dangerous offensively, and they have a much more sort of 3-1, 4-1 mindset, where Rule 1 have a we're not going to concede, we're going to counter-attack mindset, which doesn't work against a strong offensive team. So that was that, and that obviously led to Falcons getting that spot at the major. You can see here winning 2 regionals where Rule 1 only won the 1. This didn't really matter, the only making the semis in the full cup, because at the end of the day that 1 point from winning the whole event was enough to sway it in your favor. So if Rule 1 won this event, they would have made the spot. But it's Falcons who's going to be going over to Rotterdam. Then we're going to go over to APAC, where no surprises there. James Cheese wins the whole event and makes it to Rotterdam, which we kind of expected at the beginning of the season. You can see here 3-0s all the way across the board in the Swiss. Then when we got down to the bracket, 4-1, 4-0, 4-1, typical kind of results. And actually they are looking like they're getting better, which is exciting for them, because they do still need to step up to a new level when they make it to the major. So they do need to work on some stuff, and hopefully them getting better through this regional despite being so dominant is going to allow them to do so. But some interesting results here. Detonator, I've been informed, we're playing with their coach. So I don't know if it says that on here anywhere. Yes, you can see here. Detonator, I've got their coach playing in place of one of their players, probably for real life reasons. And then Gladiators lost out to Tough Love in the quarterfinals. So a bit of an upset there. Tough Love being the old, I can't remember the name, but with Doomsy, played with Furlash and Sigum, so I kind of recognise those guys from that. And then Detonator, you know, they made a major last season. Gaming Gladiators made a major last season now with OSM in place. But still, James Cheese coming out on top. And what that does mean is James Cheese miles ahead with 16, 16, 16. But the underperformance from Detonator and Gaming Gladiators has narrowed up this second spot in APAC. So should any of those come in second, that could be good for them, because I believe they have 2 spots at Worlds at the end if it's the same format as last season. So they definitely want to be getting that second spot in the region. Then we'll move on to North America. So I said about the MENA being the most interesting. Obviously North America and Europe, with so many teams all fighting for 5 spots, it does come out with some interesting outcomes. The interesting outcomes really come down to the final round of Swiss. So when you look at this final round of Swiss, it was Version 1 versus Optic, Complexity versus Furia, and NRG versus Knights. Now, in your head, NRG, Fury, and Optic are the favourites in those. Maybe Version 1 and Complexity is a bit closer, but these guys have a lot to play for right now. I believe Version 1 at this point had already clinched their spot at the major, so you're thinking NRG, Fury, and Optic are going to really step up to try and get into the top 8 so they can make the major. Underperformances from these 3 teams meant they were all out of the running for the major before we even got to Saturday. So Knights upset NRG. Fun little story there. I've been their coaching consultant for a few weeks now, so that was quite fun to be able to support them through their run here. and see them do super well. And then Complexity versus Furia, the classic South American matchup keeps happening. And on this occasion, Complexity came out on top. And then put themselves in contention for the major, and then version 1 beat Optic. I think version 1, there's some things going on there I'm not too sure about. They didn't look too happy on the cameras. I don't want to go into too much detail on that because it's all just me making my opinion based off of what I'm looking at. But they didn't look as good on the pitch, and on the cameras they didn't seem to be happy. So I do wonder if there's something going on internally. Hopefully they can get that sorted for the major. But then outside of that, Team Axel going 3-1 was big for them. Another team that's not made a top 8 yet, making their way through. And then G2 Space Station looking solid there. Gen G and FaZe, again, still consistently some of the best teams in North America. And then when it comes down to the bracket, Axel and Knights, I think they both look solid, but they lack the experience to be able to take down Space Station and FaZe. So fair play for the consistency of those top players, showing that they are at the top of North American for a reason. FaZe still looking amazing. Beating Space Station. It seems to be a bit of a problem though. Space Station just don't look as solid when they come up against a team that's good. Like, they're really good against weaker teams, but when they come up against strong teams, they seem to capitulate a little bit, lose their structure and so on. And FaZe looked really good here. And I think this is the first time Space Station have lost to a team that has majority North American players, which is another interesting stat, because before that they'd only ever lost to Gen G, and I think they might have taken a loss to like Complexity or Furia. But yeah, they seem to struggle the most with the non-North American teams. Otherwise, they've beaten them except for FaZe now. And then Gen G had a great run, looked really good against version 1, amazing against G2. G2 actually looked really good against Complexity. So Gen G and FaZe a level above their opposition in the semis, and then Gen G were just dominant in the final here. Look at a 7-1, 1-0, 3-2, 4-2. Like, obviously there's 2 overtimes here, but yeah, Gen G are looking like such a unit right now. And actually there was some really interesting stats about them that D-Rec put out. Just to recap what Gen G has done this weekend. First team to sweep G2 with Atomic on the roster. Massive performance there. First team in NA to go undefeated in games on final day. So they went 4-0 in semis, 4-0 in the final. Best record for it in NA in the playoffs for NA Regional, 12-1, because they only dropped that one game in the quarterfinal. They're also the first team with 100% assist percentage after Swift with 20 plus goals scored. So they had every single one of their goals they scored in the Swiss, which was up here. If we go up and we look at their Swiss, they went 3-0, 3-0, 1-3, 3-1. So 14 games. They score a lot of goals, you know, like the first one here, 4-6-3, here 2-5-4. In this game, they had 5 goals in one game, but none in the other 3. And then against Furia, 3-3-3-3. Every single one of these goals was assisted. And that just goes to show how much of a hive mind this Gen G team is. And that's actually really hard to do, because it means that you've never had like a solo play that's led to a goal. These guys are very selfless with the way they do their solo plays, never looking to force it in. They're looking to get out quick and set up a teammate, which is what we'll see when we analyze their gameplay. But yeah, everything in North America very interesting. What that led to is these 5 teams qualifying for the major. NRG, Complexity, Furia, Optic, all falling short. Like we said, those 3 teams there being ones that all fell short in the final round of the Swiss. And then we've got some potential rising teams here with Shopify Rebellion, Axel, Dignitas, and Knights. All of these teams have shown results against top teams and shown performances against top teams. So definitely ones to watch, or maybe even watch for those teams' players, where maybe the best player on those teams might get pinched by one of the top teams. And I'm not going to name any names specifically around that. But you might see these guys be the breeding ground of potential new top tier players as well. So that's North America. And then, like I said, South America was also this weekend, despite normally being the same weekend as Europe. And again, the club comes out on top, which we can see down at the bottom. Almost lost to Epiphany in the quarterfinals, but Secret and Crew just don't seem to have their number at all. And the club come out on top once again, with Crew getting a really good result on the opposite side of the bracket. A little bit of a shame for Secret. They didn't get to play against Crew to try and secure their spot. They had to run up against the club, which is down to the club underperforming in Swiss a little bit. But yeah, Team Secret actually beat the club in the Swiss here. Couldn't do it in the bracket play. And then what you'll notice here is then the club lost a following match against, to be honest, I mean, Backroom Enjoys, you know, they've gone 3-1 here. But if we look at the overall standings for them, you know, they're 9th in the region. They're not like the next team after Crew and Secret. And they lost that just following that Team Secret match. So potential sign of the club don't know how to deal with being on the back foot, maybe. Obviously looking a bit deeper into this than I maybe need to, but the club are the strongest team in South America right now. We haven't seen them have to deal with too much adversity So that'll be interesting. But Team Secret and Crew were fighting for that second place spot to try and make the major, because the club in this regional had already qualified. So what we were looking at was the tiebreaker, which happened on the same day. Obviously with the exams, they just wanted to get it done out the way. And what ended up happening is Secret won 4-1 against Crew. Very close games, very low scoring games actually, which doesn't seem to be the case with the club. They're very, very fast, chaotic gameplay, so it's normally a much higher scoring game. But these two teams are a little bit more controlled, and then consequently Team Secret came out on top. So Team Secret will be joining the club as the second team into the major. Crew narrowly behind, just going to miss out on those major guaranteed points, but otherwise will be just on the tail of Team Secret in the running. So we'll see if they can come back in the future. And then Endgame, you know, they had a really good first, and then they've just sort of slowly got lower and lower, but Endgame definitely one to watch out for there too. So then that brings us to the major, where we've still got some teams to be decided. As you can see here, we're still rating on 4 European teams, some of which we kind of know already. And then you've got Gen G, FaZe, Version 1, Space Station, G2 all secured their rankings. Australia, or Oceania I should say, have still got some spots to guarantee. And then we've got all of the other regions sorted. So when it comes to the first round matchups, you'll see here's what they'll look like. And we've only got one matchup secured, and that's SSG will be playing Falcons in their first round. Otherwise, we're waiting for the European and Oceanian teams to fill in the rest. So going to be a great major to watch for. But right now we've got one more weekend of RLCS, which is next weekend. Tell me in the comments below what teams you're hoping make it from Europe and OCE. In particular, who you hope to see face off in the certain matchups, and what would be your dream first round matchup for these teams. And I do wonder which of these teams is going to be thinking, well, maybe I want to go for EU4 rather than EU5, so they'll step up at that point. Or maybe even EU4 looks better than EU3. Who knows? I don't think many teams will be thinking like that, but there's definitely a potential difference in EU4 to EU3, depending on what kind of playstyle you have. So watch out for that. Let me know which ones you're excited for and what your favourite storylines were from the weekend. There's some pretty exciting stuff going on this weekend, and I will catch you all in the next weekend summary. This week should be good few videos looking at the finals from all these regions, and we'll also have a little look at some of the Pittsburgh Knights stuff where I helped them coach and see how they performed. So I'll see you in the next one.